I never asked for the house. I never even wanted it. When the lawyer called, I thought it was a scam. Some desperate cousin, maybe, or someone fishing for a social security number. But no has said my name clearly, knew my uncle's, had the right details. He told me I was now the sole inheritor of a 2-story house in northern Vermont, tucked away in a forgotten town nobody ever leaves postcards from. Apparently, my Uncle Ainsley had written me into his will just months before he died. No children, no spouse, no close friends left to object, just me. Thing is, I barely knew him. He was that relative we only saw at funerals, or when my parents argued about who was going to check on him. I remember him vaguely from childhood, quiet, odd, lived alone even back then. A man who collected books he never read, and clocks that never ticked. I hadn't seen him in over a decade. Still, I signed the papers. I was broke, between jobs, floating. The idea of flipping a whole house sounded manageable, temporary. I told myself I'd give it 3 months, clean it up, call a realtor, move on. 3 months. The house was old, colonial, faded gray siding, wooden porch missing a few planks, the kind of place that looks like it's holding its breath. The key jammed in the lock the first time I tried it, and when I finally pushed the door open, the air hit me like a wave. Dry, cold, and something else, something like dust and wood smoke, mixed with age. It smelled tired. Inside was cleaner than I expected. Furniture covered in white sheets. No graffiti, no mold. But there was something weird about the silence. Not just quiet heavy. Like sound had been sucked out of the place and buried in the floorboards. No animals, no birds outside, no wind. Just me and the creaking of my own footsteps. I told myself it was just being alone. City life trains you to always hear background noise. Without it, your brain starts making some up. But that first night, I barely slept. The mattress was too soft, the room too dark. The windows didn't face the moon right. I kept waking up thinking someone was in the hallway, but every time I checked, nothing. I chalked it up to nerves. A new environment. Echoes. The next few days were normal. I cleared out the kitchen, found a radio that still worked, opened all the windows to air out the stale. It felt manageable, peaceful even. I'd sit on the porch in the mornings with a cup of black coffee and convince myself I'd finally caught a break. Then the footsteps started. I heard them the first time late on the 4th night. A creak, slow and deliberate, from above me. Then another, and another. 5 total, spaced out like someone was pacing, barefoot, on wood. My first thought was raccoons or squirrels, maybe even a squatter I hadn't found yet. But when I checked, the attic door was shut, locked. The hatch was stiff, like it hadn't been touched in years. I stood there for a long minute, flashlight in hand, waiting for something to move. Nothing did. I went back to bed, kept the light on. The next night, same thing. Same slow, dragging steps. I knocked on the ceiling with a broom handle, yelled something stupid like, "Get out of there," just in case. But all I got was silence. I tried to ignore it. It didn't work. I started leaving the radio on overnight, turned up just loud enough to drown out the creaks, but I'd still wake up, always around 3:15 a.m., always with this weird sense that something was just outside the bedroom door. Then came the cold spots. I'd walk through the hallway and feel the temperature drop 10 degrees in one step. It wasn't the AC, this place barely had functioning plumbing. And mirrors. That's when I started noticing them. At first, it was just the hallway mirror, a tall, narrow one at the end of the upstairs corridor. I passed it a dozen times before I noticed anything weird. It didn't match the rest of the house. The frame was newer, shinier, the glass too clean. I figured my uncle bought it before he passed. But every time I looked into it, my reflection felt wrong. It followed me a little too slowly, blinked when I didn't. Once, I caught it smiling before I did. And it wasn't just that one. The reflection in the microwave, the black screen of my phone, the car window as I passed by, they all started to feel slightly off. Subtle things. A tilt of the head I didn't remember doing. A shadow where there wasn't one. Once, I swear I saw someone else behind me in the mirror, just for a flash. Gone when I turned. I stopped looking at mirrors altogether. Then came the whispers. It started in the bathroom. I'd be brushing my teeth and hear a murmur, faint, behind me. Not quite language, but not static either, like a voice underwater. I'd turn. Nothing. Wait. Listen. Silence. A few days later, I heard it again, this time under the floorboards, just low enough to feel like my imagination. But I wasn't sleeping well anymore. My days were filled with yawns and headaches. My hands trembled sometimes. I blamed it on caffeine, too much sugar, maybe a flu. But I knew the house was doing something to me. It didn't want to be empty. I lasted another week before I opened the attic. 7 nights of footsteps overhead. 7 nights of whispers I pretended not to hear. 7 mornings of waking up with bruises on my arms, faint and finger-shaped, like someone had been holding me down in my sleep. I kept making excuses. Maybe I hit the wall in my sleep. Maybe I dreamt the noises. Maybe I needed to leave and never come back, but that would mean something was really wrong. And I wasn't ready to admit that. Not yet. But then something changed. It was around 2:40 a.m. when I woke to a soft knock. Not the floor creaking, not footsteps. A knock from above. 3 short, deliberate taps like knuckles against wood. I sat up in bed, heart hammering. It came again. 1, 2, 3. Right above me. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I just stared at the ceiling like it was going to split open and drop someone on top of me. Then, silence. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I sat in the living room until sunrise, wrapped in a blanket, lights on, eyes fixed on the ceiling, listening, waiting, wondering if I'd lost it completely. By the time the sun rose, I made a decision. I wasn't going to be afraid of a door. It was midday when I finally pulled down the attic ladder. I waited until the light was pouring in through every window. I made coffee, ate breakfast, took a shower, rational steps. It made me feel like I had control. The ladder groaned as it unfolded. It was old wooden, splintered in places, slightly warped. I stared up at the dark square it opened into. Dust floated down in lazy spirals. The air smelled dry and stale, like it hadn't moved in years. I grabbed my flashlight and climbed. The attic was exactly what you'd expect from a house this age. Boxes, cobwebs, old furniture with sheets thrown over them, a rocking horse in the corner, faded paintings, yellowed books, and cold. It was so cold up there, despite the warm day outside. My breath fogged up in front of me like it was winter. I scanned the room slowly, and that's when I saw it. The mirror. It sat leaning against the far wall, almost floor length. It had a thick, ornate frame, deep mahogany with twisting carvings along the edges. Vines, or maybe veins, hard to tell. It didn't match the rest of the attic. Or the house, really. Everything else was worn, dusty, soft with age, but the mirror looked untouched, like it had been placed there yesterday. Its surface was too clean, perfectly reflective, but with a strange depth, like looking into water instead of glass. I stepped closer, instinctively holding my breath. My reflection stared back, but again, something was off. The timing was just a half-second behind, like a video with lag. I raised my hand. It raised its hand, but it twitched at the end, like a glitch. I moved side to side. My reflection followed, but the background in the mirror wasn't the attic. It was the same room, but wrong. Darker, wetter. The walls behind me in the reflection were stained and rotted. The ceiling sagged like it was soaked through. There were dark shapes in the corners, humanoid. Maybe, but they didn't move. I blinked hard. The mirror returned to normal. My reflection, my attic, nothing strange. I laughed. A short, dry sound. My nerves were shot. Still, I didn't touch the mirror. I backed away, slowly, climbed down the ladder without taking my eyes off it. And when I hit the hallway floor, I slammed the attic shut and locked the hatch. That should have been it. I should have left it alone, sold the house, moved back to the city, anything. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. The mirror called to me, not literally, not with words, but it lived in the back of my mind like an itch I couldn't scratch. I'd be doing dishes and feel like I was being watched. I'd walk past the hallway mirror and see that version of the attic behind me again. Sometimes I'd see the mirror standing behind me in places it wasn't. I tried taping the hallway mirror over. I tried covering it with a sheet. It didn't help. The next time I went up to the attic, I didn't plan to. I woke up with the ladder already down. It was 3:17 a.m. I was standing at the base of it in my socks, flashlight in hand. I didn't remember getting out of bed. My mouth was dry. My hands were shaking. I turned around, went back to my room, locked the door, and shoved the dresser in front of it. I didn't sleep. I started researching the house the next day. There wasn't much, just scattered mentions in Old Town records, but I found something odd. Back in 1908, the house had been owned by a man named Rupert Bellamy, a clockmaker. He'd gone missing. Neighbors said they hadn't seen him for weeks. When police searched the house, they found no body, but signs of something off. Mirrors were shattered across every floor. Salt circles burned into the floorboards. Scratched symbols in the walls. The police report said, possible occult activity, but the case was closed as a missing person. I dug deeper. There were rumors, forum posts, archive sites about the Bellamy Mirror, a cursed artifact that drove people mad, showed them things, followed them. No one could agree where it had ended up. I already knew. The next night, I dreamed of the attic. I was standing in front of the mirror, naked. My reflection smiled, but I didn't. Its eyes were pitch black. Its skin was too smooth, like wax. Its mouth opened, and it whispered my name. Then the glass rippled, and it stepped out. I woke up screaming. I found scratches on my arms again, this time deeper, bleeding. Not from a dream, not sleepwalking. Something had touched me. I stayed downstairs all day. I tried to leave, but my car wouldn't start. Battery dead. I checked no corrosion, no loose wires. It just refused to turn over. No signal on my phone. No Wi-Fi. Even the landline was just static. It was like the house had swallowed me. That evening, just before sunset, I heard something fall upstairs. A heavy thud. Then footsteps fast, erratic, back and forth across the second floor. I didn't want to go. Every bone in my body screamed to run, but something deeper pulled me. I grabbed the flashlight, climbed the stairs. The attic hatch was wide open, ladder down, and on the floor just beneath it, a book. A leather-bound journal, old and cracked, with a red ribbon bookmark hanging from the spine. It hadn't been there before. The house creaked constantly, now long groans like it was settling or protesting. I heard my name whispered at all hours, always from behind. At night, the attic ladder would be down, always, even if I locked it. I'd push it back up, lock the hatch, and wake the next day to find it open again. The mirror wanted me. The diary had one final entry. A way out. It was short, scrawled hastily in the margins of the back page, like a last-ditch effort. If it marks you, you can't run, but you can trap it again. Cover all mirrors, all screens, all reflections, starve it. Then face it. At dawn, break the link. Say its name. Its name is your name backward. You mustn't look away. It sounded insane, but so did everything else. I had nothing to lose. That night, I covered every mirror, every reflective surface in the house. Blankets, towels, duct tape. I even turned off my phone and stuck it in the freezer. But the attic mirror couldn't be covered. I tried. Sheets slid off. Tape wouldn't stick. Every time I turned my back, it was bare again. And closer. It had moved to the center of the attic, facing the ladder, almost waiting. I didn't sleep. I waited for dawn. I waited until 4:30 a.m., the darkest hour. The silence before the birds start singing, before the sky even considers light. The kind of quiet that feels wrong, too quiet. I sat in the kitchen with the journal in front of me, flashlight dimmed to save batteries. I read the last entry over and over like it would suddenly make sense. At dawn, break the link, say its name. I practiced it under my breath. Natanoij. My name. Backward. It felt stupid, like a child's game. But nothing else had worked, and the attic was waiting. At 5:20, the first light crept into the sky, just barely. The hatch to the attic was already open, the ladder already down. I held the flashlight in one hand, the journal in the other. My heart was thundering. I could barely breathe. I climbed slowly, one step at a time. Each creak of the wooden ladder felt like it echoed for miles. At the top, the attic was wrong. The light that filtered through the window wasn't golden. It was gray, pale, lifeless, like it had passed through smoke. And the mirror stood in the center, tall and waiting. The floor around it was blackened, burned in a circle. The air shimmered faintly, like heat haze, though it was freezing cold. My breath fogged in front of me. I stepped closer. It didn't reflect me. Not at first. I looked straight into it and saw the other attic, the ruined one. Rot on the walls, water dripping from beams that sagged, and in the middle, facing me, him, the other. He wore my face, but stretched and worn like a mask. His eyes were bottomless pits. His skin cracked at the edges like dry clay, and he was smiling. His lips didn't move, but I heard him. Inside my skull, I've waited so long. I stepped into the circle. The moment I did, I felt it pressure, like my skull was being squeezed. My ears rang, my vision blurred at the edges. The attic groaned around me, boards warping. The mirror rippled. The other took a step forward inside the glass, but the surface didn't hold like it should. His foot sank in, distorting the image. He was crossing over. I began the ritual. I looked straight into the mirror and said, voice shaking, "Natanoj." The other smiled wider. His head tilted. Again, I said it louder. "Natanoj." He laughed. A dry, clicking sound like bones tapping glass. The attic shuddered. Dust rained down. The light flickered. I could feel him pulling at me, not physically, mentally, like he was reaching into my thoughts and turning dials, messing with things that shouldn't be touched. I saw flashes, memories, not mine. A woman drowning in a mirror. A child staring into his reflection until it blinked on its own. Faces screaming behind glass, palms pressed to it from the inside. I screamed back, "Not a no!" The mirror cracked. Just a hairline, starting from the center and branching out. The other's smile faltered. He snarled, and the attic roared. Wind rushed out of the mirror like a vacuum opening. Loose papers flew, boards lifted, nails screeched. The house fought me. The circle flared with dark fire around my feet. I dropped the flashlight. Darkness swallowed me, except for the pale, pulsing glow of the mirror. The other was halfway through now. One leg, one shoulder. He reached for me with a hand that was all fingers. Too long. Bending wrong. I backed up. I wanted to run. But the journal had said one thing clearly: you mustn't look away. So I kept my eyes locked on his. And I spoke again. "Natanoj, Natanoj, Natanoj." Each word felt like knives in my throat. The attic screamed. The mirror cracked again, jagged, wide. The glass splintered across his chest. His face twisted in rage. And then he lunged. I didn't move. I just screamed his name one last time with everything I had. Natanoj. The mirror exploded. Not shattered. Exploded. A shockwave knocked me backward, off my feet. My ears rang. My back hit the attic wall. Glass sprayed like a storm, and the attic filled with blinding light. Then darkness. Total, perfect silence. I don't remember much after that. I woke up on the attic floor. The sun had risen. Real light this time, warm, clean, golden. The mirror was gone. Only shards remained, scattered around the room like dead leaves. No reflection in any of them, just jagged glass. I was bleeding from a dozen cuts, but I was me. I checked every mirror in the house. They showed only my face. No lag, no smiles, no other. Just me. I burned the journal in the fireplace that night. Watched the pages curl into black ash. I didn't want anyone else to find it, to know. I boarded the attic shut, moved out the next morning, left the keys on the counter, and never looked back. That was 3 weeks ago. I'm writing this now in a motel, 3 towns over, just to get it out of my head, to make sure it's real, that it's over. But last night, I caught something. I was brushing my teeth, mirror above the sink, normal stuff. But for a split second, I swear I saw him. In the corner of the room, just over my shoulder. Smiling,